trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
How's it going, folks? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to talk to you guys about Ludacris's 2008 album, Theater of the Mind. So basically, this was at a time when the Dirty South ruled the roost. It was, folks like Rick Ross, Young Jeezy, T.I., and Lil Wayne were really popular around this time. And it was kind of interesting just because Ludacris had been here for almost 10 years up to this point. And he kind of was starting to, it seemed like he was kind of starting to wear out a bit in terms of like his elasticity. It seemed like he was having more difficulty these days having like the hits that he had on like Back for the First Time and Word of Mouth. Songs like Move Bitch and Saturday and Area Codes and Southern Hospitality were just not quite as easy for Ludacris to make. And this is kind of an underwhelming album. I mean, I love the singles on this project. But for the most part, if you're expecting like a hit from Ludacris like Act a Fool or Move Bitch or Stand Up or Get Back, something like that where Ludacris is kind of loud and making noise and being funny, he doesn't really do that this time. I mean, this album basically has two shades to it. One shade is when he's boasting and kind of doing more thug posturing, and the other shade is when he does songs for the ladies. There's a number, I mean, Ludacris really excels at doing songs for the ladies this time around. I feel like every single that he dropped for females in mind hit home. These were great times, but unfortunately, I feel like Ludacris took 2 steps forward and 2 steps backward because he lost the ability to kind of do songs like he initially made. There's no real, The Potion on here, there's no Get Back, no number one spot, no Stand Up, no Move Bitch, no Saturday, no Roll Out. That's kind of what you have to pay attention to, is just kind of saying Ludacris was just kind of in a different frame of mind. And as a result, and another thing as a result, is just the fact that there is a severe lack of interesting album cuts, which is kind of the thing, because Ludacris typically excels through albums. He has more than enough to say, but this time it felt like he did not have enough to say. Like he was really struggling. He retreads topics, and it seems like he really has problems like branching out this project. It felt very forced, and that's not something I enjoy to say. But there were 6 singles on this project. I know truly that there were only 3, but 3 of them were also released as promotional singles. So I'll go ahead and talk about all 6 of them with you. So first single was What Them Girls Like, has Chris Brown and Sean Garrett on there. Pretty good song. This is what I'm talking about when I say Ludacris seemed like he had to try more this time to make the singles, because it's a decent song for the ladies, but it is not quite as addictive as like it normally should be. I mean, I feel like the hook could have been better. Chris Brown could have been utilized on that song better, and really Ludacris kind of felt preachy on the song. Ludacris kind of felt more preachy on the song. I felt like he should have just talked about some of the things he was doing rather than give like tips on how to get more attempts at women and stuff. It's okay, but it I don't know. It's definitely not my first, second, or third choice of songs I would listen, or of singles that I would listen to by Ludacris. It's definitely like a third-rate single. I don't know if it's if I had to say if he had a greatest hits album, I don't know if I'd expect it to be on there because it's kind of underwhelming. I like it enough. I mean, it's a good song, but it's just not excellent like he normally does. Second single, which I think is a promotional single, is Wish You Would. This has T.I. on there. Really wasn't sold on it at all. I felt like the beat could have been way better. The approach towards the song was just, like aimless boasting on the song that just didn't really have any stickiness to it. It was kind of disappointing, and overall, it just, I don't think it should have been released as a single. The song was a big deal back in the day because it was Ludacris and T.I. on a song after all the beef that they had and the arguments that they had gotten into, but the result of when they came together was just not that interesting. I mean, I really felt like it should have been better. I mean, if it had been Ludacris in 2004, 2005, I know it probably would have had. But a lot of what has to do with that is I just didn't like the production, but I really felt like the overall approach to that song was kind of meh. Yeah. So Undisputed and Last of a Dying Breed are 2 very similar songs. This is where I talk about where Ludacris kind of gets more on his boasting vibes. And this is what I talk about, because Undisputed is just basically him saying that there's no one who can touch me in this game right now. I'm one of the absolute best. And thing about it is it's really not that interesting to listen to. I mean, it kind of has like this uh, brassy and kind of marching band production. There's a number of songs on this album that have like marching band productions, and they all sound extremely similar. And Floyd Mayweather didn't really help on the song. The production was pretty bland, and it was just aimless boasting that didn't really stick and didn't have any personality. I mean, I felt like Ludacris typically has more personality than he does, but it was just basically going for the top, just doing a standard lyrical song, but not really doing it that well. And it's the same thing with Last of a Dying Breed. Lil Wayne is on that song, but it really didn't bother me because these were just not interesting songs to listen to. And the problem with it is because Ludacris is such an interesting personality, you know, with him doing songs like Pimpin' All Over the World, Blueberry Yum Yum, what else has he done? Act a Fool, Area Codes, Pussy Poppin', Stand Up, some of those. I mean, it's number one spot. I mean, there's numerous type reasons to think that he has the personality where he could have had better singles than just aimless threats and being the best in the game. I mean, Last of a Dying Breed basically means like, hey, I'm one of the last good rappers, but it's the approach towards it just doesn't have enough steam towards it. It's just kind of, I mean, it's apparent that Ludacris is one of the last remaining good rappers, but the problem with it is he doesn't do a good job of proving it, because this song is not very emphatic at all. So, but the next single, the second true single, is One More Drink with T-Pain. This is a beautiful song. This is what I talk about when I said Ludacris was really in his element when talking to women this time. The hook is brilliant by T-Pain. If you're not sold on auto-tune and kind of T-Pain type songs, I mean, I would at least recommend you reconsider for this song, because it's a great drinking song, great bar song, real easygoing vibes. You know, Ludacris talks about just picking up some chicks at the bar and getting drunk while he does it. Perfect disc. I mean, these are the kind of songs that Ludacris should be making. This was an example of an interesting topic, basically saying, if I take one more drink, I'm about to tap some woman who may not be that attractive, but she has a big ass or something like that. Or maybe she's a butterface and she's not that good looking, but her booty is completely large. Have one more drink and you'll reconsider. It's just good. I mean, it's a good song to going out and not having such high standards, and I appreciate it. It's overall a great song to go out and get crunk to, definitely, but there's just not many songs like that. This is the only song of his kind. I would have loved for Ludacris to have done way more songs like that song. That's, to me, one of the most interesting topics he has on this album. But the final single, which to me was the last true single, this is the only other one that charted, really, was Nasty Girl. This is a brilliant song also. I mean, him and Plies do an excellent job just talking about a list of freaks that they've had and the kind of situations as to how they've gone with it. And it's just interesting because they kind of tell a story. They don't try to be lyrical. They keep it in a single format. And it's just interesting hearing about, you know, the situations and the stories they have to tell. It's fun. The beat is great. It's just a real poppy, and, you know, it's a good club rap song in the sense where it kind of keeps like the vibe about it, and it has like a real solid approach in terms of like what they did. I really like Ludacris's songwriting on this song. This is an example of a single that went the distance and was able to kind of have like the spark that he had back in his old days. So yeah, so getting to the rest of the album, yeah, I would have to say the unfortunate thing about it is, like I said, there's just really not a number of interesting topics. Like for example, Undisputed, Everybody Hates Chris, Last of a Dying Breed, and Do the Right Thing all have this very similar marching band production, and it sounds like you're out and about really going someplace, but the production on it is just so severely not interesting. It's really shameful that there's that many songs that sound that similar. Just to kind of, especially to say Everybody Hates Chris, Undisputed, and Last of a Dying Breed. I mean, they all sound the same, and I'm really surprised that Ludacris just kind of sleptwalk. It just felt like he was kind of sleepwalking through these songs because they didn't really have any spark to them. For the most part, these songs or just boasting, and I mean, Everybody Hates Chris wasn't, but, you know, I really couldn't get into those songs. I mean, I really felt like the severe lack of interesting stuff to talk about on these were just kind of dull. And speaking of which, a lot of what Ludacris feels like on this album is letting people know that he's a goat and he's one of the best. Like Last of a Dying Breed, MVP, and I Do It for Hip Hop are all the same type of song where he's trying to make claims for a lyricist, but is this kind of, I mean, Ludacris was already a great, but the problem with him trying to be a lyricist is, for the most part, it's not that interesting. I feel like the only one of those songs that I just listed that did it well was MVP. Has a great DJ Premier beat. He's real laid back, doesn't have any guests really go in with him, and he just takes it to town. And it's like, if he would have slashed a few of these song topics, put in a song with smoking, put in a song with him just going to a bar, put in a dance song, something like that. Had like a DJ Unk styled song, had like, another song with T-Pain, just something like that, some of those type vibes where we could have seen. As to my big question about Ludacris is, what was the man doing in 2008? I mean, he has topics about wanting to be a lyricist. He has like the thug posturing tracks, which is Undisputed, Wish You Would, and Southern Gangsta, and even Call Up the Homies is one of those type songs. But really, Ludacris severely did not have much on his mind this time. I mean, minus women and being a lyricist and, threatening folks, it was not a very interesting romp to listen to. And that's kind of the thing about it. There just was not an overabundance of interesting topics. A song like Hopeless from Red Light District was really good. A song like, what else was there off of Red Light District? Pimpin' All the World was really clever. Pass Out, there's no song like that. No songs like Get Back, Number One Spot. I mean, just think of how many good records from like Red Light District, and you'll see what I mean. No Blueberry Yum Yum. There just should have been way more interesting topics. I definitely felt like the number of songs on here is just really sparse. So once again, I'll say thug posturing, wanting to be a lyricist, and women are about the main central themes to this topic. Minus like one song, which is Do the Right Thing. It was this was an earnest surprise. I mean, it's not a song I would listen to on a night out, but just on the very off occasion, it's just kind of a basic day and not much is going on. It's just interesting to see Ludacris and Common basically talk about like toning it down and not being so violent in a lot of cases. I mean, the beat is really not something I like, but I at least respect Ludacris and Common's songwriting on the song. So it's good, but it's something I'd probably listen to probably not even a third, and not less than a third of the time, but it's good enough to say that it's worth a listen. So that's the basic concept behind this album, is there's just really not enough. Like, I would almost give Call Up the Homies a good score and say I like that song also, but I really felt like Ludacris should have been on that song more. Willie North Pole really didn't do that well on the song, and I don't know, it was just kind of a missed opportunity because it turned into calling up the homies and going out to have a good time to kind of being more about like, getting ready to get into some stuff, get into some crap and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, I don't know, but that's kind of the remark about it. A lot of these more boasting songs really just didn't have any sort of flair to them. They felt kind of aimless and tasteless and severely lacked the punch that Ludacris normally has on almost all of his songs. That's kind of the disappointing thing. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you the 6 songs out of 14 I liked so you can understand it. So the 6 songs I recommend to you are One More Drink, What Them Girls Like, Nasty Girl, MVP, Contagious, and Do the Right Thing. 4 out of 6 of these are for women. I mean, I really felt like I was saying, Ludacris did a lot better with songs for ladies. He really polished this and was able to prove that he can kind of do like almost like pop rap, maybe not pop rap, but R&B flavored rap, kind of like Fabulous kind of does, and those type people. He's pretty good at it, but unfortunately, when you subtract women from the picture, he really has basically nothing good going for him, at least on this album. I mean, Ludacris has done it. He does have the ability to do these songs, but they are in severe short supply this time, and that's kind of a huge problem. It makes it very lackluster if you're trying to play this around some of your friends, because all the songs that are meant for guys really kind of drop the ball extremely. MVP is the closest we get, but it's just kind of like, I mean, there's not too many. Doesn't sound like that's a song for the homies that much. It kind of feels like an easygoing DJ Premier song. And Do the Right Thing definitely isn't either, because it's just about, being kind of more punctual and stuff like that. So there's really, I would have to say, the social score is not going to get a very high score unless you are with females when you're with your buddies. That's about the only real thing I would say about it, but I'll get to that. So I'm going to give this album a 5 out of 10. I want to give it a 4.5, but because I like the singles as much as I did, I'm just going to kind of up the score a bit and say it's just a 5 out of 10. And the social score, I'm just going to give like a 4 out of 10, just because there's really nothing for the homies. I mean, with women in mind, there's a number of good moments on here, but apart from that, there's really no good Blueberry Yum Yum or Stand Up or Act a Fool type song on here, which is pretty disappointing, because you'd think that it would have like some categorization of having like a good time, but Ludacris just didn't really have that in mind this time around. And it's kind of, I mean, it barely feels like a Ludacris album because there's so many guests on here. That's another thing. There's so many guests, but they just don't deliver good songs. I felt like the songwriting, that's probably the thing about it, is the songwriting on this album was really terrible. Just the list of topics this time around just really didn't do it for me, and it didn't result in any sort of punch or tropical flavor that Ludacris has in spades. That's just something to pay attention to, is just to realize that and kind of say, I mean, if all you need is just some ladies joints, then this has that in spades. But other than that, if you're not in that department of going out and having some flirty times, it really will not do much of anything for you. So just something to keep in mind.